So it's August of 2019. I'm walking through the Mandalay Bay Casino, day two of Black Hat, like 125 degrees outside. And I might be just a tad hungover, but you know, like they say, what happens in Vegas. But my head's throbbing a little bit. And especially as I'm walking through the casino and I hear the jingles of every freaking slot machine known to mankind ringing at 8:15 a.m. And of course, I checking my email as I'm walking, and we lost our first big deal, right? Lost. To whom? Like, how did we lose? To our partner. We lost to our partner. Are you bleeping kidding me? We lost to our partner. I get to the restaurant to meet our other co-founders, Joe and Steve, and tell them the ridiculous news that I just learned. And there is fear and loathing in Las Vegas, just like Hunter S. Thompson wrote. So the question was, is our business over before it began in Las Vegas? Do you guys remember this? Joe, what do you remember about that day?
Well, I think the hangover part was probably real, but I think what you said is spot on. You know, it's early morning and we're optimistic. We're at Black Hat. We're thinking we're in the game. And along comes a message that says your first huge opportunity is no more. And I think that there was a lot of doubt right then and there. You know, you go, this was our chance to get out of bootstrap mode and actually start generating some revenue and feeling like this has got some momentum. And at that moment, you're just thinking, oh well, there it went. Maybe not so much. Who knows? But I don't know. It's pretty frustrating. I can tell you that much. What about you, Steve?
Revenue's a good thing, right?
Well, at that point, any revenue would have been a good thing, and especially a good deal like we thought we had in the bag. But I don't know. It was pretty frustrating. I remember Steve didn't look quite so good that morning either.
I'm pretty sure I wasn't feeling the hangoverness then. I was just still drunk from last night, starting to wear off.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, that's why.
What do you remember? What do you call from that moment of what is actually happening right now?
Well, still being kind of like in between, going from being very excited and happy to this morning's going to really suck for other reasons. I kind of remember just more or less you guys kind of having a change of face, but a little bit more lowered than what happens after a night before in Vegas. And they're not fun time we had at the craps table, that's for sure. But I think that's when you kind of broke that news to me. I was kind of like, oh, does this mean that I don't have to do as much work now? Is that how this is going to work?
Exactly.
I like that.
Your week looked a lot easier at that point?
Oh yeah. I was like, hey, this is going to be a great Black Hat DEF CON. But I think, Joe, that's when I think you kind of looked at me going, can we do this?
Yeah, I think there was a moment of what do we do now? Mm-hmm. And, how do we turn this? Are we done? And I'm not sure if I specifically said, can we do this? I think it was more of a, screw those guys. And maybe we can come up with option B. And then I think that's when you said the magic words.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's right. I think I just
ended with it?
I just said, fuck it. We can build that.
Exactly.
And we did. Right?
And we did.
Those are the magic words. So, that's just a little bit reminiscent of how we got started, but welcome to the Zero Trust Issues podcast. I know what you're thinking, another podcast, just the billionth or whatever this might be. But we're going to use this time to have really smart people in a short amount of time, but experts in cyber, experts in AI, not just us babbling. If you're already freaked out, come back. Trust me, there's going to be some great guests. I wouldn't just have us three all the time. But our goal is to give you guys knowledge. It's to really talk about what's happening day to day in cyber, day to day in AI. And as you are a business leader, as you are a cyber leader, hopefully there's a takeaway or two every single episode that just makes business a little bit easier. There's no BS. Nothing crazy boring, no ads. There are definitely no ads. We're not doing this for the cash. We're doing this just to share really important things in cyber and AI. So
Tony,
with that said, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to like kind of add that you know the background here is really that through the process of building this business of understanding what the demands are of our clients and the cyber leaders and the business leaders throughout the process, it's really about saying there's a story for so many people about that moment when that real moment where cyber risk, business pressure, financial pressure, or things along those lines come into play. And, I think it's just an opportunity for us to, like, as you said, take those real genuine sort of stories and talk about how do people come out the other side and how do we, share that knowledge and give everybody the chance to learn from it.
Yep, absolutely. So who the heck, get it, is AgileBlue? I didn't write that.
It's punny, Tony.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We had one goal, right? And it wasn't just retribution after we learned our partners stole our deal with their antiquated technology. It was for us at the end of 2019. So that's a long time ago now. It's pre-COVID. I guess anything pre-COVID is like, BC or something like that at this point. But it was to create an autonomous security operations center for the mid-market. One that we could pair modern, tremendous technology with a 24/7 expert team. In that moment in Vegas, that's what we looked at building. And we know we were one of the first to market to do that. So Steve, what do you remember outside of the effort? And now you have to build it. So now you actually have to work and now leave the craps table. What else did you remember, in those early days?
Oh man, it was trying to like meet that goal of like, hey, how do you automate this? How do you make it so I'd say to like an extent people can be, I guess, a little lazy because you let, systems computer, let them do all the work for you. I mean, why not? I think at that moment, still after I kind of, said, let's do it. Like from our side, I was like, oh, I don't really know what I just got myself into at this point. Maybe I made a mistake. I was like,
sounded good at breakfast, but
it did. I was like, I'll let Future Steve figure that out. But I think through that, kind of be like, it put on like a very new like kind of challenge that was tricky, especially like in your security space, where nothing's really stale or stagnant, bounces and changes all over the place. But I thought it was just a really good challenge, and it's still a really big challenge.
So if you like a big challenge, you could equate that to your favorite animal found in the depths of, I assume just Africa, but what was your relation to the animal that should be our spirit animal?
But wait a second. I think you got to back this up. If you remember right, Steve was, as we're trying to think through what's this architecture look like and what's the real value add for our clients and how do we hit our target market, Steve was really focused in on having a mascot. And because that was going to be the difference maker for the whole business. What was that again, Steve?
It wasn't a mascot, sir. It was a logo.
Oh.
We needed a logo for this Shining Bright Enterprise. I thought it would be really great to that we just had a honey badger. And honey badger was our logo.
Just kind of rolling through the office, nice little pet honey, but
well, it wasn't going to be roaming the office. We're not, unsafe. It would just be in your office, Tony. That was the whole plan. It's all closed. You got one window. We can look and see it and, tap on the glass, make it a little mad every now and then.
Yeah, I like it.
Steve, I don't know if you know the part where you pitched the honey badger and you went into great detail about how you were going to hide honey badgers around the website and make it like little Easter eggs. And you left and Tony and I looked at each other and said, there's no effing way this is happening, right?
I think that's when we realized we can't get many decision-making responsibilities.
Creative aspects were out for your role.
Hey. I would have to find it, but I think I still have the original logo we did have made. And I did.
If you came prepared,
right.
You'd have a picture for the podcast, but apparently that's not so.
We're going to put that instead of your picture for the camera going forward.
So Joe, you're more pragmatic. You weren't thinking honey badger, but you had the idea to build a cybersecurity company I think it originally started as a group within your existing business, but then you're like,
Sure.
hey, I think we need to do something very specific. Let's build a technology company. But what do you remember? Because as an MSP, you
Yeah.
guys were really, becoming an MSSP and working through those types of things. What do you remember about that trajectory into launching this company?
It's funny, the timing of cybersecurity, as it relates to our business and over the last, again, as you said, pre-COVID, post-COVID. But the arc was really interesting. You could see the demand accelerating. You could see the risks accelerating. And as you're talking to clients on a day-to-day basis about what do we have to do. And it was quickly self-evident that cyber talent and skills were hard to come by. That's why some of these platforms were starting to accelerate. And you needed to be able to create some measure of security profile and be able to convince clients on the MSP side that this was really a value add. And it was difficult, I think, because in so many instances, it felt like a little bit like an insurance policy. We're gonna keep you safe, don't worry, and we've got the tools, and you got to pay for it. But what we talked about early on, we discussed the need for making sure that we had the ability to create visibility into, the cyber risks that our clients were facing. How do we show IT directors, board of directors, CEOs, everybody, like, this is what's happening? Because it was just this thing off in the cloud that people had struggled to, frankly, pay for. They heard the risk, they understood the risk, but how do you get it? So I remember thinking, we've got to figure out how to like frame this up in a way and put this on the screen in front of people and let them put their hands on it so they can see the value. And it was really just a matter of trying to figure out how to best present that and start to build it. And I just remember it was a big demand, or a big challenge,
Yeah.
really being able to understand, the SMB market, the mid market, you start at one and you move into the others, and the challenge is, sort of the arc of technology follows that. And I just think we were looking at the early stages of, how do we truly protect, environments in a way that can work. And I will say that on the MSSP side, when you and I sat and talked about this, I remember specifically thinking we have to build solutions that can scale with something other than simply more people. We need to try and target platforms and technology that can operate at the highest level without simply more bodies being thrown
That's
at
right.
it. So yeah, that's what I remember. I remember like those two
Yeah.
challenges kind of happening in parallel, and that was kind of the framework for what we were talking
Well,
about.
I think also from day one, we said our goal is not to have 100 people
Yep.
in an office clicking buttons. Let's have the tech do that and have the smart people doing the more critical thinking stuff. So, Steve, you're one of those smart people, I believe. You were a certified ethical hacker. Ethical, I guess, is subjective. But at the end of the day, when you think about that start, because you worked with Joe for a while, right? Longer than I did. When you thought about that, what experiences in working at that MSP level were you then packing away in your brain, and a little bit with that partner that kind of skirts a little bit? When you looked at all that, how did you look at that, and how did those experiences actually start formulating how we were going to build and develop AgileBlue? Again, one of the very first, if not the first, autonomous security operation platforms on the market.
Yeah. So I think like that experience kind of with MSPs and dealing with your small mid-sized market, like those big takeaways is that these are clients that don't have the money to do these things or even the time most of the way. So SOC operations, more or less the exact same across the board. What you're gonna have, the data you need to collect, and how your special stuff happens on how you manipulate that data, look for information on that data, alert, provide that kind of value to clients. But the one of the few things that really translate over, which is kind of a core of certain aspects of us, is that kind of zero client interaction or near zero client interaction on actual setup. So that way clients can do what they need to do and not have to worry about, oh, it's going to take 8 hours to do this, 4 hours to do that. Oh, I got to troubleshoot, figure this out. It's, hey, we'll take care of all those things for you because we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that just gets that kind of expedited process right for those clients.
Was it difficult? When you started this process, when you started building this, was that a key barrier that we needed to solve as we move forward? I mean, was the existing platforms, existing partners, much more difficult to deal with and from a deployment standpoint?
Yeah, because what I've seen is they want you to set everything up, do it all yourself. And then I think with some of those partners that we worked with, they didn't even let you see anything. So you couldn't even go and look at your own
Black
data, your own
box.
info.
Just trust us. Don't ask any questions.
Yeah, if I wanted to look at something because I'm curious, it's I have to email somebody, and then there has to be a whole conversation, and I can't just go and look myself. Or that data was kind of limited to just certain aspects. You didn't get really good nitty gritty down data, and all that kind of like it just felt like I don't know, especially someone a little more tech minded wants to go and play with things. It's kind of like it's almost like I put my hands in jail and I can't do anything with any of this. I just have to hope what they're doing is right.
I think it's interesting. Our timing of building the platform was so fascinating because I think there was enough experience with legacy systems and tools that we were familiar with, and when you combine that with the timing of whether it's COVID or AI or anything else, it really created sort of this unique opportunity for us to step back and go, okay, what are the things that makes everybody crazy? And how do we create an opportunity to leverage these new advancements and tools that are at our disposal? It sounds like that was just one of them, that we had to knock out of the way out of the gate. One of many.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this question because I think this is interesting. So Joe, it's you, Steve, me, a
Right.
deranged honey badger. That's
somewhere
the
in the
look.
building.
That's in my
So we
office
get work done.
apparently.
We don't know where.
So that's the makeup. Fast forward, obviously we've had fantastic growth. I think being one of the first autonomous SOCs is the key to that growth. But when you think about what you just said, which was great, and then you think about where we were, how we got started, where we are, which like you and I talk about, probably not even halftime yet, but maybe it's close to halftime. Maybe there's 2 minutes to go and the Buckeyes are about to score a touchdown. So maybe we're close. But where do you then see this stuff evolving? Where do you see not just AgileBlue, but the industry evolving? So AgileBlue is obviously continues to be a trendsetter and staying out front.
It's a fascinating question because, and I always equate it to when people will say, okay, so what are you going to be doing in the next 3 years? And I marvel at, we're at a point in time from a technology and a technology adoption standpoint that, if I know what we're doing next month, I might be lying to you. Like the change in the landscape, the threat landscape is so pronounced. And I look back on, it's funny, we're having this conversation and we look back on what we were doing just a few years ago and what we thought those priorities would be, and they're substantially different. I think the demands of automation and responsiveness and the speed of which that we have to be able to protect clients and be available 24/7 has just never been greater. The ability for everyone in the world to be using AI and to innovate both from an attack standpoint and a response standpoint. I don't know that there's a single thing or single target that I can point to that says this is where we got to go next. But at the end of the day, we have to be on par. We have to innovate at a pace at which we are staying with the risk factors that are out there. And so, I believe that right now it's a matter of continuing to increase the capacity by which we are making super, super fast, super intelligent information responses and, basically collaborating with our clients to make sure that they're continuing to evolve to match the threats that are out there. It's just, there's so many technical things that you could do, but it's amazing the degree to which tomorrow, the next day, next month, the answer to that question might need to be a little bit different. And I just think that's where we've got to be as responsive as possible.
The Wall Street Journal had an article this morning, and it was a really interesting article. And it's talking about a new cyber company that's just been funded. They don't compete with us, so I can talk a little bit about them. But the message was key, and it builds off what Joe said. And then, Steve, I'd like to hear your take on this. Is an AI, you need AI, native AI, to stay ahead of the hackers who are using brand new native AI. It can't be old legacy technology that has a little wrapper on it that's sending off commands to some GPT and just bringing back generative. It's about agentic. It's about being individualistic in that agent, making decisions, like Joe said, fast, but making that response that we know is the correct response, whether that's shutting something down or maybe it's just closing out an alert. So Steve, when you think about that article, I don't think you read it, but the point is AI native is the future of cybersecurity, not just saying, yeah, we do AI, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's the current. It's not even just the future. I think that's where it has to be right now. I mean, how do we keep up with that? I mean, that's your job, Steve, right?
Yeah, it's a fun problem to have. I'll admit, Tony, I forgot I don't have a Wall Street Journal account, so I didn't get to read that beautiful
I keep
article.
giving you but every time I say this to you, I give you the company password, and obviously you don't use Dashlane or something like that. There's an ad for Dashlane right there.
Well, it's sad
No
we do
names.
have it. I probably have it somewhere. It's somewhere in my passwords at this point. Yeah, as we see just with, as perfect examples, just use it with the, attackers of red team. Everyone's, they're leveraging it because you can churn stuff out quicker, faster. You can make a lot of changes and tweaks. And the real big thing is that just lowers, which I think for attackers is bad for us, good for them, is it lowers that bar of entry. Because now I can even have Joe start writing malware for himself.
Ooh.
With, he'll be up and running with infrastructure
Let's see if you can
3
stop me,
days.
brother. I'm in.
I'm pretty sure your prompts will be amazing.
Right.
So that's where, when it comes to our side of the house, the blue side, the defensive side, we have to be leveraging those same toolings as well. But I think it also helps us because now that means it lowers that barrier to entry, because now all the fluff and everything people get wrong, we can just expedite that process quickly and be able to have results and answers or detections and analytics and cases, all that buzzword fun stuff.
Yeah.
But it means people can get up to speed quicker, can be more actionable quicker, and find and investigate those threats just that much faster. So that means whatever they're doing is kind of counteracted because now they have, maybe 4 seconds instead of 3 hours to potentially do whatever damage they want to do.
Yep. There's an interesting podcast. It's called Hacker and the Fed. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to it. It's an FBI guy who brought down a hacking crew, and then he got that hacking leader then to join them. So it's a really good podcast, probably once every 2-3 weeks. It's a really interesting listen from a hacker perspective, and then obviously from a law enforcement perspective. But this past week, whenever I listened to it this past week, I don't know when it published. The point is, the FBI asked the hacker guy straight out, will hackers go away because somebody's going to create the AI to just create that? And he said, no. They're going to multiply. No longer do you need to be super smart, super technical. Again, if you can use AI to develop this stuff, maybe instead of having 1,000 hackers, all of a sudden you got 4,000 hackers now, right? Like it's just going to multiply. So I don't know, Joe, when you think about that, of bringing more common people to become hackers because of this technology, how do you play defense against something like that?
Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's a matter of understanding, what you've got to be good at. You've got to be able to make sure that from a defensive standpoint, there are going to be a handful of things. The platforms today can try to cover a lot of ground, but really your threat surface, your threat targets are going to be pretty pronounced. And I think at the end of the day, you evolve by just making sure you're continually aware of where the highest risks are and that you're targeting your defenses accordingly. And I think that's where, it's just important for, I mentioned earlier the idea that, we've seen so many stories and sort of decision points of critical nature. And, ultimately it's always about, or I don't always, but certainly often about, where people are focusing their attention and making sure that they're leveraging the tech to get just that precise. So
yeah.
I don't know. Not sure if that specifically answers your question, Tony, but I'm thinking like it's a pretty targeted answer. I'm question for you, Tony, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious as we've reflected on all this. You've got Steve and I on the hot seat here. I want to turn it around. What was something that when you talk about getting into this industry and you didn't have a lot of experience in cyber years ago? I mean, certainly you were familiar with it, but nothing like you are now. But what did you misunderstand about what it meant to do what we're doing today? What did you think we needed to do versus what do we really need to do right now in order to make sure that we are delivering on the promise of, a high performing security operations platform?
Look, I knew nothing about cyber. You started, we met, you started putting on these terms, red team, blue team, Steve team, CEH. I'm like, what the heck is all this crap? I was on Google as soon as you and I left that lunch, but I knew this. I know how to build software. You guys know your industry extraordinarily well. You put those two things together. And to me, it was always about that autonomy. The thing that made everything amazing is the autonomy will help people win because you can't just rely on a group of people. You just can't. It doesn't work like that anymore. And to me, the future of everything we do is super smart engineers, super smart people to develop this technology that our clients could literally get maybe 25 more minutes of sleep at night and not wake up thinking, what the heck is going on with the cloud? So, I know we're getting close to time, but, so you think about this, Joe, we got great people. A great company start with great people. We got great people. We got great technology, and technology is getting better every day of the week. Balance sheet, looking a lot better than it did way back in the day. I can tell you that.
Well,
that means we can afford the honey badgers.
Is the honey badger in our future?
That's what you're telling me.
Steve, we'll take that under consideration. Trust me.
Yeah. So look, we always end on a takeaway, right? People have to have a takeaway, right, of something. Joe, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If somebody's going to just take this thing away, one concept, business leader or cyber leader, whatever it might be at an organization that's listening to this, what's the one takeaway you want them to leave this podcast and say, got it, that's actually going to help me?
Well, I think that without going into a lot of detail on the industry or things that are happening out there right now, I think we'll follow up and cover more of that in the future. But I'd say from my standpoint right here, right now, I think it's amazing how you can take opportunities out of what seems like a pretty crappy moment. We thought this opportunity was dead, and it actually was the spark that created the business that we have today. So, when we're faced with the challenges and in this industry, tech, cyber, AI, there's a lot of challenges. Usually it's the roadblocks that create the opportunities, and I think we're evidence of that. So that's my big takeaway, and I think there's more to come.
It's a great takeaway. Steve, you got a takeaway? You got a little nugget that you want to impart?
Oh, a nugget of wisdom? I don't know. I think the one kind of takeaway I do have is, which might be a little bit in general, is sometimes those opportunities or those paths to those opportunities just appear in the weirdest locations sometimes. I mean, who would have thought? At a security conference, half drunk, hungover, all of a sudden, this spark of an idea came to life, and then pursuing it all the way down to here. And,
never know what happens at a craps table, right? The ideas that can spring out of it.
Just don't yell 7. Just don't yell 7.
Don't bring your IT cooler to the table. It'll
exactly.
take you right out.
Exactly.
It's a good thing I have etiquette.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. You got it, of course. I would also add that, the thing that I think is a tremendous takeaway for people is cyber is a business outcome that everybody's looking for. I think the word resilience is going to be huge, not because you have to stop every attack, not because you did stop every attack, but how resilient is that organization? And I think when you think about resiliency, starting like Joe just said, and you said, Steve, starting with that really bad news to be resilient and build something like we built, I think it's the same thing in cyber. Leaders need to be understanding of how they can make their organizations more resilient across the board. And that's going to be the key to a great cybersecurity strategy, not just got to stop all this stuff. It's how resilient is our organization.
Things are going to happen. What are you going to do?
That's right. All right, gentlemen. Fun first episode. People probably hung up when they heard the word honey badger, but excellent reminiscence of how we started this company. We're going to have some great guests. General Heritage, who ran U.S. Cyber Command, will be our next. So we look forward to doing that with somebody who has probably seen some things that would make us all freak out a little bit. For more information on AgileBlue, it's easy. You just visit agileblue.com. Gentlemen, enjoy your day.
You do the
Take
same,
care, everybody.
Sir. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Zero Trust Issues. Be sure to click follow so you never miss an episode. And visit AgileBlue.com to learn more about how AI-native cybersecurity can protect your business. The information shared in this podcast represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily reflect those of AgileBlue. This content is provided for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as professional cybersecurity, legal, or business advice. Always consult qualified professionals regarding your organization's specific needs or circumstances.